Connect on social media. Connect on Facebook and Twitter. Connect with iPower One Nation. Stay connected with iPower One.
From the Hard Planet Media Studios in New York, this is iPower 2 This Moment.
Continuing coverage right now of the breaking news story out of Texas, that mass school shooting there, and the similarities to the Sandy Hook school shooting are painful. The heartache and the helplessness felt from Newtown to our nation's capital.
And nearly a decade after 20 children and 6 educators were killed here at home, it all leads to one inescapable question: how?
Yep, how is it possible that this is still happening?
What are we doing? What are we doing? Just days after a shooter walked into a grocery store to gun down African American patrons, we have another Sandy Hook on our hands. What are we doing? There have been more mass shootings than days in the year. Our kids are living in fear every single time they set foot in a classroom because they think they're going to be next.
Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, raw emotion simmering to the surface, appealing to his colleagues to take action to prevent the next school shooting. At this point, the rampage in Uvalde is the second deadliest elementary school shooting after Sandy Hook in 2012. And the parallels to Sandy Hook are chilling and unavoidable. In 2012, Adam Lanza killed his mother, then drove to Sandy Hook Elementary and opened fire. The Uvalde suspect, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, shot his grandmother and then drove to Robb Elementary to carry out his act of evil, shooting indiscriminately at 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. The families in Uvalde, just as in Newtown nearly a decade ago, seeing their worlds, their lives shattered.
I think that all you have to do is look at today's event and see how similar it is to Sandy Hook, that you know that this is something that keeps on happening and we haven't found the fix for it yet. There needs to be something done to stop this kind of event from happening again, because this is a tragedy that no parent should have to go through.
Kenneth Gray is a retired special agent with the FBI and a senior lecturer at the University of New Haven. He says there is no one cause for events like these or a single solution to them. But Senator Chris Murphy says the time to do something is now.
Why are you here? If not to solve a problem as existential as this. This isn't inevitable. These kids weren't unlucky. This only happens in this country and nowhere else.
And here at home, some parents are worried about sending their kids to school. Some schools in our area will have extra police presence as a result. News 12 Connecticut's Lauren Fabrizi is live at Fairfield Police Headquarters with more for us. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Becky. Officers here stress that heightened police presence at schools today is not in response to any specific threats in town, but rather a community engagement measure in response to that tragedy in Texas. There will be a heightened police presence at schools over in Norwalk as well. Norwalk Public Schools posting this on Facebook. Please know that there is nothing more important than the safety of our schools. To make sure our students and staff feel safe, all Norwalk schools will reinforce our existing safety protocols and will be extra vigilant. Our partners at the Norwalk Police Department will also have a more visible police presence at our schools as well. Schools in Greenwich will do the same. In a Facebook post, Greenwich Police said, "We recognize that following tragic incidents such as this leaves many feeling unsettled, and Greenwich is not the exception. It is our responsibility to ensure our residents and visitors have a feeling of safety within our town and schools." The Greenwich Police Department will have an increased presence at Greenwich schools today. Meanwhile, Nicole Hockley, the co-founder of Sandy Hook Promise, who lost her son in the Sandy Hook school shooting, is reacting to the tragedy in Texas. She says, quote, "We're becoming too immune to this as a country, but that's not the way it's supposed to be."
People said that after Sandy Hook, with 20 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds dying and 6 educators, that would be rock bottom. And yet here we are again, almost 10 years later, with another elementary school and the thousands of mass shootings that have happened in between. I don't know how much more our country can take and why we keep going through that same cycle over and over again of thoughts and prayers and lack of action.
And back here in Fairfield, police, as always, are stressing the importance of remaining vigilant and reporting anything that may seem suspicious near schools or anywhere in town. In Fairfield, Lauren Fabrizi, News 12 Connecticut.
Press conference to denounce what they called an act of white supremacy in Buffalo. News 12 New Jersey's Naomi Yane has more. Naomi.
Roxanne, the People's Organization for Progress gathered here in Newark in front of the Lincoln Memorial at the old courthouse like they've done many times before, this time around to call on New Jersey leaders to take action to prevent what happened in Buffalo from happening here in our state. Now, this coming, like you mentioned, on the heels of the horrific shooting at a Buffalo supermarket this past weekend when a shooter opened fire, killing 10 people and wounding 3. Now, authorities calling this shooting a hate crime, saying the alleged shooter chose the area because it was predominantly black. Leaders here in New Jersey denounced the act of domestic terrorism and called on New Jersey Department of Homeland Security and Preparedness to intervene, especially because the shooter named Lakewood, Toms River, and Jersey City in his manifesto.
Every year since 2020 has issued a report and said white racist extremism is the greatest threat to public safety in this state. But we have not really seen any evidence of what action is being taken on the issue. And our fear is that if preventative measures are not taken, that we're going to see an incident here in New Jersey similar to what happened in Buffalo, New York.
Now, the People's Organization for Progress, along with some other local grassroots organizations, are calling on the state to organize a statewide conference, is what they're calling it, heavily focused on racially motivated domestic crimes of terrorism and hate crimes. In Newark, Naomi Yane.
Police have arrested the suspect accused of fatally shooting a man in the chest on the Q train.
CBS 2's Alice Gaynor live outside the 5th Precinct Station House in Chinatown tonight with more on how police caught up with him. Alice.
Maurice and Christine, that suspect is still here at the 5th Precinct. Want to give you a live look at the door here. He's about to be walked out of here at any moment. From here, they're going to take him to Central Booking. You could see photographers and reporters gathered out here. The NYPD says he's a gang member known to them with a long criminal history.
25-year-old Andrew Abdullah didn't say anything as he was walked into the 5th Precinct this afternoon. Police tell us he also didn't say much before he allegedly shot 48-year-old Daniel Enriquez once in the chest, killing him while on board a northbound Q train Sunday.
Eyewitnesses stated that a male was pacing back and forth inside the train car, muttering to himself. The only distinguishable words heard were "no phones."
They say he then fled the Canal Street station, handing off the stolen gun to a homeless man he did not know.
11 minutes later, transit officers responding to the scene stopped the suspect. He had altered his appearance.
They say he no longer matched the clothing description put out by law enforcement, showed his ID, and was free to go. Today, he was arrested at his lawyer's office. The Legal Aid Society said partly they were negotiating his surrender when, quote, he was needlessly ambushed out front of our Manhattan trial office by law enforcement, denied of his opportunity to first consult with counsel. The mayor responded.
This is about getting the bad guy off the street. That's what we did.
Abdullah's family members contacted their bishop, asking him to help Abdullah turn himself in.
They said that he suffered from mental illness, mental health challenges. As far as I understand from the family, they say he doesn't recollect any of it at all.
Abdullah is a gang member, police say, with 8 prior arrests.
His criminal history stretches back to 2016 and includes charges of felony assault, robbery, attempted murder, and a still open gun charge from 2 years ago.
Police say they don't know why Enriquez was targeted. He was headed to brunch just before noon when it happened. The Park Slope resident worked in the research department at Goldman Sachs and was a loving uncle.
Daniel was shot in his heart. We feel it in our hearts. We lost a fellow New Yorker, one of the good guys.
His partner of 18 years says the arrest is good for the public, but it won't bring back Daniel. Passengers United, a mass transit advocacy group, says this could have happened to anyone.
Right now, underground, it's a mess. You have people disrupting trains, disrupting service. I went up to the Bronx. I was riding the subway till 10:30. Not one police officer in sight. Same thing today.
Once again, this is a live look outside of the 5th Precinct in Chinatown here, where that suspect is expected to be walked out of here at any moment. From here, he will be taken to central booking. Abdullah is facing charges of murder and criminal possession of a weapon. Check back with CBS 2 News this morning for more updates. We're live in Chinatown. Alice Gaynor, CBS 2 News.
You're watching iPower 2 this moment. Moving forward in the NYC.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Gun violence and crime in the Bronx now facing a major blow after several people are off the streets, but some still needing to be found. The announcement coming from the Bronx's top attorney, and News 12's Julio Avila joins us now outside of the DA's office with more on this bust. Julio.
Yeah, that's right. The Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark announcing that 29 men, one of them a teenager, are connected to a series of shootings and violence on the streets of Highbridge and even at Rikers Island. And now they're facing multiple charges and indictments. Now, take a look. What you're seeing are some of the weapons that were used, where the DA says those who used them had no care for the lives of themselves or others. Now, the members and allies, she says, are allegedly from the RPT organization, where some of them are being charged. Some of them, what their charges are, include attempted murder, attempted assault, and the use of firearms. Now, Clark was joined by members of the NYPD, and she was saying that some of those gang members have been arraigned in the Bronx Supreme Court. Only one had bail set, and the remaining members will be arraigned soon. She went on to say that some of the violence was promoted and even rapped about on social media through videos, some of which taunted rival gang members, and some of those featured in those videos posing with guns. Now, the DA says she wants to focus on deviating children from a life of glorified crime.
And I'm going to call for a summit with these aspiring rappers, with rap stars who come from the Bronx, which we have legendary stars that come from here. This is the birth of hip hop. I'm asking the radio stations and social media outlets, let's all sit down and develop solutions so that we could prevent any further violence.
Now, there are also 6 members that have not yet been caught and are still on the loose. Now, some of those members are also going to be facing animal cruelty charges, as the DA says in one instance, some of those members were beating a pigeon that they had caught, comparing that to a rival gang member walking onto their turf, and that incident was live streamed. We're in Concourse Village. I'm Julio Avila, News 12.
Well, one local organization is marching to stop crime in Bronx neighborhoods. Well, one way they're doing that is by bringing communities and residents together. In fact, they were doing that today, and News 12's Julio Avila shows us how.
Well, crime is on a lot of people's minds, but if you ask Kwame Thompson, the answer, he says, is community outreach. That's why he and his crew from Stand Up to Violence were out in Soundview reaching out to neighbors. They hosted this outdoor event where they partnered up with the James Monroe Resident Council, and this one indoors with the Soundview Community Center. They provided food to the residents, but were also bringing people together to help end violence, specifically gun violence. Thompson tells us SUV staff does consist of people who were gang members members themselves, turning their lives around. And if Thompson could have a perfect world, here's what he envisions.
You know, no more gun violence. You know, what we say is guns down, life up, right? We say one shot fired, one shot too many. And we speak that out loud. You know, when we don't have to have these jobs, then the world is looking a lot better.
And when I see my babies, you see the babies, when the babies get hit, when they get shot, I don't like that. That's what makes me really mad.
Now, he tells us the focus of these events were geared more towards children, and that they're going to have these events again next Saturday, which will be centered around adults. We're going to have all of that information for you on News12.com. In Soundview, Julio Avila, News 12.
She apparently was the forgotten woman of NYCHA until construction workers made a terrible discovery. They saw the woman's skeleton in her bedroom while working on the top floor at South Jamaica Houses.
Yeah, we are learning tonight she may have been dead nearly 2 years. Pix 11's Mary Murphy joining us now with more details. Mary.
Such a sad story. The woman's name was Marilyn McMichael, and her skeleton was found on April 26th. She had 2 foster sisters who tried to report her missing back in January, but they say nobody seemed to care.
Construction workers are tearing up the road outside South Jamaica Houses on 160th Street. But not too many people know about the discovery made inside the building on April 26th.
I just heard it was a woman found in her bed. She was found in her bed upstairs on the 7th floor.
Her name was Marilyn McMichael, and she was 54 years old.
Apparently her windows were open, so the men on the scaffolding saw her in her bed, dead, skeletal form.
Simone Best Jones and Charmin McElrath are foster sisters who grew up with Marilyn McMichael, known as May, in a loving family. They said May developed emotional problems over the years and called them after the first wave of the pandemic in 2020.
She wanted me to take her to the hospital. She sounded a little manic, and I was trying to explain to her they're not accepting people at the hospitals.
The sisters say they tried knocking on May's door over the next year.
We would never get her to come to the door.
Was that unusual, or had she done it before?
That was not unusual for May.
They say they went to the NYCHA office in South Jamaica Houses in January to report her missing.
They told us that she hadn't paid rent in over a year.
They said that my parents were on the emergency card, and I let them know that both of them have been dead for over 20 years.
The sisters claim NYCHA personnel and the NYPD cop didn't show much empathy, but eventually took them to the 7th floor and tried to use a master key on McMichael's door. It didn't work.
And they never tried again. They said they would. They said they had an investigator that would find her.
Marilyn McMichael's sisters told us that 3 months after they tried to file a missing persons report here at the NYCHA offices at South Jamaica Houses, they received terrible news from their sister's neighbor.
Decomposed in an apartment. You treat a dog better than that.
Pix 11 News paid a visit to the basement NYCHA office. Do you know why they didn't check for 3 months? When we asked to speak with a supervisor, the NYCHA press office only sent a brief response to my email. Quote, "Please reach out to NYPD for more information, as this is a police matter." The sisters say multiple people need to answer for what happened.
She was treated, to me, less than human.
So what? She lived in public housing. It should have made a difference.
Police told us when they entered McMichael's apartment on April 26th, they noticed the calendar had not been used since August 2020. It was almost frozen in time. The medical examiner had to use x-rays to identify the woman's remains.
That's supposed to be covered.
Where to turn next. In fact, she's trying to raise 2 little boys with autism in an apartment that she says is unbearable. And her landlord is no longer here because of a horrific tragedy. News 12's Anthony Carlo explains from Williamsbridge.
I have to put a bucket in the middle of the kids' room.
When it rains, it pours inside Eileen Hernandez's home, literally.
This is the haunted house.
Broken windows.
That's supposed to be covered.
Exposed outlets.
I got a cup right here.
And leaks. Hernandez says this is not a home to raise her 5- and 6-year-old sons in. They both have autism.
It affects me every single day. because my kids deserve better.
This single mother says it's always been a struggle to get repairs done at 854 East 214th Street. She moved to the private building from a shelter 4.5 years ago.
Everything is a weight. And because I have no landlord, everything is an extra weight.
She had a landlord until last March.
Police discovered 50-year-old Denise McLaughlin stabbed to death Friday night.
Allegedly murdered by her own son, as we reported, leaving one family grief-stricken and others in the dark.
Every time I try to reach out for help, everybody told me, well, you have no landlord. We have no one to serve.
One of Hernandez's biggest concerns is this fire escape door leading to the roof that she says does not properly open. So she has to rely on the front door as her only exit.
I have no way to get out.
Hernandez says she went 2 weeks last month without heat. That's when nonprofit Smiles Through Cars stepped in.
No one should have to live like that. You should have something called home.
Sounding the alarm. The Legal Aid Society says the city or bank should step up.
The courts really struggle with sort of who to engage to maintain a building in this context. And so Ms. Hernandez and her neighbors are sort of in this limbo.
Hernandez, who gets rental assistance, says she's on a waiting list for a new apartment.
A home to call home.
Not a haunted house. In Williamsbridge, the Bronx, Anthony Carlo, News 12.
Now, a spokesperson for the mayor tells us one of Mayor Adams' top priorities is making sure that every New Yorker has access to safe, affordable housing. City agencies have been working for weeks to improve the conditions in this building. They go on to add that we encourage any New Yorker looking for a new home to take advantage of the many available resources that the city offers. If you need housing help, we have a list of resources posted over on news12.com. All you have to do is click on numbers and links when you're on the website.
You're watching iPower 2 this moment in New York City.
If you store your guns properly, I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside.
Safer when walking home.
I won't have to tell so many family members. I'm sorry.
I won't hear as many scary stories.
And I won't have to tell my kids this isn't a drill.
Please.
Please, do it for us.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
The Rush Paul Morning Show. Paul Morning Show. Paul Morning Show. Paul Morning Show.
You see, my mom's double shift wasn't in vain. Low achiever, at risk, disregarded. I will break that chain. Pain, disease, death, cigarettes were to blame. But I overcame the block. And the shock when my grandpa's lung cancer caused by cigarettes was caught. Distraught and left alone. Had 3 generations in one home. Not broken, but awoken. Setting sights on CEO of independence as my goal. So I reject cigarettes to regain control.
Keep it fresh. Live tobacco free.
Get iPower 989 or iPower 2 on any device. Watch or listen anywhere in the New York tri-state area. Video or radio on demand. Available on YouTube or TuneIn Radio. Also, log on to our official website, iPower1hd.com. iPower is always on 24/7. Download now.
Well, people who take the subway in Washington Heights say they're being forced to take a hike, literally, in order to use the 181st Street station.
The MTA has started a repair project that will leave the escalators at that station out of service for a long time. CBS's Lisa Rosner shows us the alternative that has left riders furious.
Gabriella Capel is out of breath after climbing flights of stairs to go home after getting off the A train Monday at the 181st Street station.
It was very hard because I am pregnant and I didn't know that there were so many stairs.
People with canes, strollers, luggage.
It's about 50 pounds.
All struggling. Commuters are used to taking one of 3 escalators available for the 181st Street exit, but due to frequent outages, they need to be fixed. The MTA says since all 3 run on one motor, they all need to be taken out of service until February.
Can you give a little insight why it's taking 9 months?
Well, work in our system is complicated.
These escalators were not in good shape. They weren't performing well. They were all tied together in one equipment room.
You could probably build a building, in that time.
My body can't handle this right now. I'm still out of breath.
And coming out of the subway, when residents finally make it to the turnstiles, there is yet another flight of stairs that they have to go through before they are officially home free.
I'm 80 years old. I'm in pretty good shape for 80, but this sucks. It's not fair.
Commuters also have the option of walking down the very long platform to the northern end of the station and taking the elevators at 184th Street, but then outside there's a steep hill.
It's an ADA violation. Work faster. Put people on the job. Do it 24/7. Do what you have to do.
The question becomes capacity, meaning can that elevator service enough people to make it that everyone's rights are being fulfilled?
He adds if there's lawsuits, a court would look closer at the definition of readily accessible and factor in whether the inconvenience of taking the elevator qualifies. In Washington Heights, Lisa Rosner, CBS 2 News.
And on the side with the elevators, passengers still need to take stairs. The MTA says there is a project underway to extend the elevators all the way to the platform. The transit agency also says it is working to replace the escalators as fast as it can.
May is Water Safety Awareness Month, and with Memorial Day right around the corner, water safety awareness is more important than ever. News 12's Emily Young is at a swim school in New Rochelle with more.
Before you open up your pool for the season, you need to know these statistics.
Drowning remains the #1 cause of injury-related death for children ages 1 to 4. 3 kids drown in the United States daily.
Swim lessons reduce the risk of drowning by 88%. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends starting your child swimming at around age 1. Here at Goldfish Swim School, you can start as early as 4 months.
We do start to teach the conditioning skills, get them comfortable in the water, start to build some muscle memory.
David enrolled his 2-year-old daughter Colette in swim lessons for the first time a few weeks ago.
We have a house by a lake, and we want to utilize the lake at some point, and it's very, very important for her safety to make sure that she's equipped with the skills to just in case anything bad happens.
2-year-old Jesse has been swimming since he was 1.
I thought it was really important just to get him acclimated to being in water, just to make sure that he was comfortable, not scared of it, no fear. And it's done that. It's worked. He's really loved it. So he's learning especially to come to the edge of the pool and do that safely and climb out himself. I think that's a great skill for this age.
And Simon had to hold off on swim lessons for his 5-year-old and his 3-year-old because he couldn't find them at the height of the pandemic. Now, 2 years later, they've finally started, and he's noticed a bit of a delay.
The older one especially, only because he just started out and he's now at an age where he knows fear.
In New Rochelle, Emily Young, News 12.
Goldfish Swim School says there are other things you can do to keep your kids safe other than swimming lessons. If your child is relying on a life jacket, make sure it is U.S. Coast Guard approved and it fits properly. Other flotation devices that don't fit properly are not life-saving.
Idle hands. They say they're the devil's workshop. Easy targets. Quick to kill time. something to do, a place to go, a purpose. And they're capable of amazing things.
iPower 1 is always on 24/7. Listen or watch us anytime. Plus, like and follow us on our social media.
From the Hard Planet Media Studios in New York, this is iPower 2 This Moment.
Bojang ignored reporters and bystanders as he was led out of the NYPD's 41st Precinct House Monday evening. Bojang turned himself in with his attorney by his side after a week-long manhunt. Police have identified the 18-year-old as the person driving this moped on May 16th, and they allege another teenager, 15-year-old Matthew Godwin, was the passenger on the moped who opened fire. Police say a stray bullet struck and killed innocent bystander 11-year-old Kiara Tay in the South Bronx. A wake was held tonight for the little girl. Hundreds came to pay their respects. Family, friends, even strangers.
Got a teenage daughter, so we all should feel, the pain of losing a child or anybody unexpected. After I met the mother and father, I feel their pain, man. This is an unnecessary death. Gotta stop the gang violence, man.
Kiara's death has shocked the city, the latest incident of senseless gun violence with the suspects in their teens. Godwin will be charged as an adult. He was found early Friday morning in a hotel room with his mother. NYPD officials say Bojang is a known gang member, but did not specify if Godwin was also known to be in a gang. Police have said Godwin's intended target was a 13-year-old boy who has not been identified by police. And law enforcement officials say Bojang is known to them. Bojang was apparently shot in two other incidents that police have characterized as gang-related disputes. Now he is facing murder and weapons charges. Again, he is awaiting arraignment. We're live tonight outside Bronx Criminal Court. I'm Shirley Chan, Pix 11 News.
Another decision to cancel a New York State Regents exam, but this time it has nothing to do with COVID.
State Education Department is canceling next week's U.S. History and Government exam, and CBS 2's Tony Aiello tells us the reason is connected to the mass shooting in Buffalo.
11th graders at White Plains High School got the news in the late afternoon. The statewide June 1st U.S. History and Government Regents exam canceled.
Yes, a bit of surprise, but the last 3 years have been surprises.
The chair of the History Department carefully read this letter explaining the decision. State Education Commissioner Betty Rosa writing, "The tragedy in Buffalo has created an unexpected and unintended context for the planned assessment. Our experts determined that there is content on the examination that has the potential to compound student trauma caused by the recent violence in Buffalo." The exact concern about Buffalo was not explained. The test was prepared months before the May 14th murder of 10 innocent black people.
I'm not sure what the content was, but I'm sure that in their infinite wisdom that they pulled back for reasons that they felt were valid.
Their experts had a chance to look over the materials again after and recognize that there could be some things that would trigger some, emotions of students.
The White Plains principal says he believes the state is acting in good faith to protect students. They've been on a Regents roller coaster. Various January exams were canceled due to the Omicron outbreak. At the end of the day, the White Plains 11th graders did not prep in vain for the U.S. History and Government Regents exam. The district will create and administer its own year-end history test,
which probably will mirror what they would have had anyway.
In White Plains, Tony Aiello, CBS 2 News.
A school teacher decided it was her duty to cut the hair of a student, a 5-year-old student, without permission from anyone. This teacher has now been charged with simple battery and, ladies and gentlemen, is on the run. All right, let me take you to a place called Gwinnett County, Georgia. A Gwinnett County family says a teacher cut a 5-year-old boy's long hair in a class earlier this week. Family members said the child, named Jax, attends Rosebud Elementary School in Loganville, Georgia. Let me show you a picture of how long this hair is, okay? All right? Now, let me give you a little bit of background to this because, once again, this is a violation not only of the physical well-being of the child, but also the spiritual, cultural, and ethnic expression of that child and the child's family. I spoke earlier today with Gerald Rose. Mr. Rose is a civil rights activist in Georgia. He has something to say about this. Mr. Rose said, and I quote, "We are outraged by this obvious violation of human rights. The teacher, who is white, a white female, and possibly racist, did this to a 5-year-old child and was expected to voluntarily come in for questioning, but did not show up. We stand with the family, and we are a voice for this youth." Okay? Now, the news has decided not to release the name of the teaching assistant who committed assault to this 5-year-old child. That is the allegation. Local news will not release the name, but guess what? I will. Based on information from the police report that I was able to review earlier today, verified by those close to the incident, the name of this assistant teacher is Susan Williams, and she has been charged with simple battery. Let's talk about the family and their outraged. The aunt of this 5-year-old child, Mick D, wrote on Facebook on Tuesday, a teacher cut Jack's long hair for no reason. The teacher then put the cut hair into a bag and sent it home with Jax, all right? The teacher then put the cut hair into a bag, sent it home with Jax. Our family takes great pride in our hair due to its sacred qualities, spiritual value, strength, and cultural traditions. All of that was violated here. D wrote, "I'm outraged." D went on to say that Jax has special needs and she considered the incident as an assault. Let's put up a picture of one of the family members. Now, this is not only a violation of a 5-year-old, this 5-year-old is a special needs student, and this teacher has committed a physical assault against that child. Photos D shared on Facebook show the child with braids that are 2 different lengths and the cut hair in a plastic bag. The school's principal sent a letter to parents saying that the paraprofessional has been accused of taking inappropriate action against a student in her class. Let's put up a picture of the principal. Her name is Brittany Riddick. Now, in all fairness, everything that I've heard about Miss Riddick is positive. That can turn if Miss Riddick does not do the right thing here. So far, we are expecting decent leadership out of this principal. Principal Riddick said that she contacted the district's Human Resources Department and school police, and both have launched investigations into what happened. The accused teacher will not be allowed back at the school, according to Riddick. Please know that I'm concerned about this situation as I care about all of our students, Riddick wrote. Thank you for your continued support as we continue to focus on teaching and learning, as well as the mental and physical well-being of our students and staff. Okay, so let me highlight some important elements to this, okay? Number one, there's this systemic disregard for the independence of black families contextualized in school systems all over America. Now, think about this, the audacity, the privilege of someone to say, I'm going to take it upon myself not to contact parents, not to engage in a civil conversation about long hair in schools, which, by the way, is not an offense, but I'm going to simply cut a child's hair. And now that the teacher is accused of simple battery, that teacher is not showing up for questioning, okay? Now, I'm okay with the school system's response at about 85%. I would have been much harsher than this principal, and rightfully so. At some point, we have to conclude that our true north are children. Now, remember, conservatives are going to tell you that the biggest issue in K through 12 education is critical race theory, a fiction they created for their red meat for their base. Not even real. Critical race theory not taught in K through 12 education at all. But here's the reality. we are in the midst of a cultural war where children are on the chopping block. All right, J.R. Jackson, what are your thoughts here?
Well, the first thing I thought here was when we talked about the Crown Act and how that was passed in the House, but then the Senate, of course, went immediately and made sure that they cut that down, because why do we need to go through this? Why do we need to care about such a thing that I'm not connected to? And this is where things like diversity and having people that are living different backgrounds and situations than you come into effect, because now it comes down to a school level here, of course. Now, how much are these kids learning when they see this happen? And then now the teacher doesn't show back up after they then have to answer for their actions. How much are they teaching folks? My wife's the teacher, and I see the level of things that she has to go through just to prepare for a class for the week, and the in-depth nature of that. And I assume most teachers do, the good ones do at least. What part of that planning and preparation includes you then cutting someone's hair because you don't like that it's the wrong shape, maybe it's not styled the way you like it? Where is your focus not going to be on the students? And then after you leave and can't come back, I wrote these 3 words: respectfulness, accountability, and consequences. I assume these are things that people say they're teaching children, especially when they said, hey, be clean cut, make sure you look a certain way, because people want to approach you in the world and you should be seen a certain way. Now, after you get caught up, then you just disappear. Where is the respectful? Where is the accountability, and where are you answering to the consequences for what you did? You can probably come back from it if you say, you know what, I made a mistake, I was trying to figure this out. Or maybe you can't, but you should at least have enough respect for the person that you did this to that's different from you. That's not your child. For you to at least tell that kid, hey, as you go forward, this is not going to be a life-changing thing that you always remember to tell your friends and maybe your wife about later in life. You know what my 3rd grade teacher did to me? She cut my hair and nobody did anything about it. Yeah. That's a life-changing event.
And let me say this, everything you said is correct. And let me say this about the 5-year-old. You have to imagine that the 5-year-old feels isolated. This is not a pro-social contact. This is an anti-social contact. This makes a child withdraw from connecting with adults. This was a violation. I'm sure this child cried when it was happening, and it is a violation to the family. Now, I'm a former school teacher myself, former public school teacher, and I was adopted by a public school teacher. And there are 3 things, 3 dynamics in the classroom, your responsibility as a teacher. Number 1, physical safety. Number 2, the academic curriculum. And number 3, social development. You don't just have children in front of you for 1 or 2, but for all 3. And this teaching assistant has failed on all 3. So we're going to continue to follow the story. And let me say this about the school system. Please stop hiding people that are anti-children, all right? Because I will find their names and put it right here on the show.
You're watching iPower 2 this moment. Moving forward in the NYC.
The needs of children don't take a summer vacation. The Y and Walmart Foundation are partnering to provide the nutritious food and fun activities kids need to be healthy and strong. Learn more at ymca.net/summerfood.
Why is my son having trouble in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with my son over his homework.
Home walk restaurant. Need a review?
No. He's smart, but his mind wanders.
7 wonders of the world.
Why don't you understand me?
I do. I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
My little brother, he's always in my stuff, I swear. The little dude plays too much. It's only because he's my little brother I put up with it. And yeah, he's always watching me, but I'm always looking out for him. I'm staying fresh, like skipping out on cigarettes. Because I know if I smoke, he's more likely to smoke cigarettes too. And no matter how much he gets on my nerve, he's family. Cigarette cycle of death and disease stops with me.
For the love of family, keep it fresh. Live tobacco free.
So while I'm glad the black male was not arrested for self-defense, I am upset that the person who attacked him was not immediately apprehended, charged with the crime. But, you know, things happen differently in this world than they should. Let me give you some background. This was United Airlines. A United Airlines worker has been filmed trading blows with a passenger. This was at the airport, obviously. This was a brawl that left the employee with blood on his face. In a statement released to the Daily Mail, United Airlines said they would be investigating the altercation between the employee and the passenger. United Airlines, this is their quote, all right? United Airlines does not tolerate violence of any kind at our airports or on board our planes. And we are working with local authorities to further investigate this matter, the statement to the news outlet read. Now, I got a few problems with this, okay? Number one, I don't care what the passenger said. I don't care what the customer said. Your employee physically attacked the black male. Everybody can see that. Now, the fact that you cannot say conclusively that you will not tolerate this kind of behavior from your workers tells me that you have a problem with your passengers. You don't like your passengers. You have disdain for your customers because clearly this is an opportunity for you to advocate for those who spend money with you. But let me turn this around for a minute. Imagine this same employee walked up to a white female. Maybe the white female has said something he didn't like. He walked up to a white female and decided to punch the white female in the face. And the white female just ended up getting the best of him. Do you think the statement would be the same from United Airlines? Or would there be decisive action taken right now? And also, where's the crowd that's always pro self-defense here? Why are they not defending this brother who obviously was engaged in self-defense himself? Silent. Crickets, nothing. Because when it's a black person who's engaging in self-defense, it does not fit the narrative that they're trying to create. All right, JR?
First thing I thought was stay down. Stay down. That's what you say to your friends when they got engaged in a fight and you're like, you know what, we're not going to make this unfair. I'm not going to be three of us jump in on this one dude. They're going to fight. And once you see it happening, just tell them, this is my input. Stay down, James. Stay down. I don't know if that's his name. Stay down, bro. Because that's the first thing. You've lost the fight, move on. We've had this. It's been adjudicated. Whatever it is you did to start it, I understand. Maybe your pride's getting in the way. Stay down now. Because I think one woman came over. Maybe she's another airline worker. She's like this. She was saying, stay down. Number two, Bill O'Reilly and Ted Cruz have been in airports recently in the past year or so, heckling, harassing, angry at an airline worker. Maybe the worker was at fault. Their flights were delayed. Maybe they got the runaround. All of us have been in frustrating situations at the airport before. But what they were not ever in fear of was being attacked after they yelled at that person. So again, like you said, I don't care what the winner of this fight said. You're working, so maybe talk about it later. Maybe you can kick him off the flight. Whatever it is you're trying to do that he's disruptive about. But once you start throwing hands, expect them back.
Yeah, expect them back, and hopefully there's an actual charge here because, like I said, if you would have had another variable, as I said, a white female being attacked like this, definitely this would be a different conclusion from the airline.
A judge has denied Atlanta recording artist Gunna bond on Monday, setting his trial date for next year. This stems from his indictment over his affiliation with YSL, the record label Young Thug founded.
Bought a P, not a pill, a Porsche. A push a P. 3 P's, popcorn, Porsche.
Gunna's attorney, Steve Sadow, proposed some conditions for the rapper's bond, including a $750,000 secured bond, house arrest with electronic monitoring, and that Gunna's parents would also put up their homes. Earlier in May, Gunna, whose real name is Sergio Kitchens, along with Young Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Lamar Williams, were indicted along with 28 others on conspiracy to violate Georgia's RICO Act and street gang charges. The indictment states Young Thug is allegedly one of 3 founders of the Young Slime Life, a criminal street gang that started in late 2012 in Atlanta, according to CBS News. Officials claim YSL is affiliated with the National Bloods gang. Lyrics from both Young Thug and Gunna were used in the 88-page indictment.
bought him a new AK. My birthday, I ran out that STK. We smoke out the building, don't care what they say.
According to WSB on Monday, prosecutors argued that Gunna is one of YSL's founders and that he is in a position of command, ordering hits on rival gang members. Gunna's attorney, Steve Sadow, refuted those claims and offered up a wiretap on the rapper's phones. The judge denied bond, saying Gunna's release on bond would pose a danger to witness safety, setting Gunna's trial for January 9, 2023. Complex reports a bond ruling for Young Thug has been delayed due to an unspecified conflict of interest. In a statement to Inside Edition Digital, Gunna's attorney Steve Sadow said, quote, Mr. Sergio Kitchens has pled not guilty to the RICO conspiracy indictment because he is innocent. While we respectfully disagree with the court's decision, we understand its concern about threats and intimidation of witnesses. We fully believe when the court hears evidence, not just the words of the prosecutor, it will find that Sergio Kitchens, Gunna, release on bond will not directly or indirectly pose a significant risk to witnesses. We will be asking the court to require the prosecution to produce evidence when we seek a hearing on a motion to reconsider bond. We have also reached out to Young Thug's attorney and have not yet received a response. However, Young Thug's lawyer Brian Steele told CBS News, quote, Mr. Williams has committed no violation of law whatsoever. We will fight this case ethically, legally, and zealously. Mr. Williams will be cleared.
Holiday travel is way up this year.
It is packed. 62% of Americans are expected to travel this Memorial Day, which is up 122% from just a year ago.
But what's also up? The cost. Airfare has jumped 36% from last year. The price of gas, 50%. Still, Americans are itching to get away. If you're getting on a plane this weekend, get ready for long lines and packed flights.
When possible these days, book nonstop flights, even if they're more expensive, because whenever you add in connections, you're just asking for your trip to be interrupted.
Sign up for TSA PreCheck or Clear and try to bring carry-on luggage only. The car is still by far the preferred way to get away. 34 million Americans will take a road trip this weekend. And if you're one of them, it's going to take a bite out of your wallet.
Drivers all across the country will be paying the most Memorial Day gas prices on record.
But there are ways to save on gas.
Try to fit everything, all of your luggage, inside the vehicle instead of using those overhead luggage racks. That creates drag and reduces fuel efficiency. And obey the speed limit. The faster the vehicle is moving, the more fuel you're burning. So if you decrease your freeway speeds by 5 to 10 miles per hour, you could increase your fuel economy by up to 14%. Really? It's a big difference.
Well, it's an end of an era. New York City's last payphone. You can see it was removed today in the Theater District of Manhattan. Take a look at that. You can see it there being pulled out of the cement. It will now live at the Museum of the City of New York, where the newly installed exhibit Analog City looks back at the life in the city before computers, just as New York City expands digital connectivity.
You're watching iPower 2 this moment in New York City.
I'm here. Can you see me? Because I feel like I'm invisible. Like this whole place is invisible. If it weren't for the nightly news, no one would even think of this place. But down here, things look different. Down here, our spirits are bright, and our dreams are vivid. And if given a chance, that's what the world would see.
iPower 1 is always on 24/7. Listen or watch us anytime. Plus, like and follow us on our social media.
Years since the death of George Floyd. It sparked worldwide protests and a call for change in policing here in the United States.
And in an exclusive interview that you'll only see on 12, our Phil Tate sits down with his brother,
Terrence to discuss life without George and his pledge to fight for change.
Keep my brother's name ringing, as I always say.
Keep the name ringing. Terrence, it's been 2 years since your brother's death and 1 year since the conviction of Derek Chauvin. But how are you?
Since it happened, I've had, flashbacks and of what I've seen, because like I told people before, I've seen the video over and over again.
Terrence Floyd says it's trauma filled with pain, a feeling he has no choice but to live with for a lifetime.
Mixed emotions, and it's a lot to deal with.
A painful memory of his brother's death on May 25th, 2020, but reminders of tragedy are all around. Just last week, former Minneapolis police officer Thomas Lane, who held down Floyd's leg during his final plea for mercy, pleaded guilty to second-degree manslaughter.
I'm actually applauding Lane for having the conviction and holding himself accountable.
But thoughts still linger.
I wanted to know from the man himself why.
On a question he asked the convicted former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin a year ago.
When you saw that he was face down, couldn't do nothing, why are you still on him? But he got his in the end.
While George Floyd can no longer speak for himself, his brother says he's keeping his vow to be that voice.
I walk where he can't walk no more, and I love where he can't love no more. That's always going to be my motto.
Terrence says he was robbed not only of a precious human life, but precious memories the pair had hoped to create. He tells me while they knew of each other, they only met in person for the first time in 2016.
And then I just went in and grabbed him. Just picture me, a big dude, running into another big dude, hugging like we two little kids.
First time me in.
The Brooklyn native had looked forward to his own kids embracing their tall Uncle George, but those hopes shattered forever.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough.
His message to millions who marched worldwide.
You saw children, you saw young people out there. You said COVID what? Who? They wasn't worried about that because it was about life.
As the chants of ralliers echo in his mind, he continues his mission for change with We Are Floyd, an organization that fights for the rights of others, pushing the narrative of social justice.
When you chant We Are Floyd, it's like we, or everybody, when you chant that We Are Floyd, we are him. It could have happened to you. It could have happened to you. It could have happened to me.
While he continues to spread the message that all men are created equal, the trauma still persists as he raises his eldest son.
He don't know if I'm coming back home. I don't know if he's coming back home. That's an emotional strain. When he comes in and I see him, I give him a five, give him a hug, because we made it home. We see each other.
Terrence, how do you want your brother's legacy to be remembered, not just today, but years from now?
I want people to remember him as an important black life that was gone too soon. He had more life to live. He had more people to touch.
George Floyd, a man, a moment that changed America forever. In Brooklyn, Bill Tate, News 12. Meanwhile, over in Brooklyn, the Tompkins Avenue Open Streets is back. Well, it gives local businesses a chance to show off what they have to offer and an opportunity to celebrate Bed-Stuy's unique culture. Well, News 12's Cecilia Hua has the details. Cecilia.
Bill, the warm weather we have today makes it a great day to kick off the Tompkins Avenue Open Streets for this summer.
Come to Brooklyn, come to Bed-Stuy, come to Tompkins Avenue. We're waiting for you.
The Open Streets Fair stretches along Tompkins Avenue from Halsey to Gates Avenue and allows more than 30 merchants here to bring their business right to the streets on Sundays. A partnership between Bridge Street Development Corporation and the Tompkins Avenue Merchant Association, this project was created to help these businesses bring back some of the revenue they've lost during the pandemic. By opening up the streets to the community, it brings in more foot traffic and allows neighbors to enjoy what Bed-Stuy has to offer.
As you can see, we have a little bit for everybody. This is really for the entire family, the entire community. I'm really bringing together in the spirit of of community and the spirit of having a good vibe and making this a destination in Bed-Stuy.
Now, this is the second year that the Tompkins Avenue Open Streets has taken place, and it was even voted one of the best open streets in the city. The event will be happening every Sunday from noon to 7 p.m. until October. In Bed-Stuy, Cecilia Hua, News 12.